you're not going to be skint when you're older if you think I'm going to squirrel away half my age as a percentage of my income every year. So if I'm 20, I'm going to start putting 10% away. If I'm 30, I'm going to do 15% of my money away. Like, it's not an exact science, but if you wanted a rule of thumb, you're not going to be disappointed with yourself if you're doing that.
Did you make up that rule, or is it like
it's an old rule? It's an old rule based on final salary pension planning. But yeah, is
that still going to work for someone who maybe starting later in life or feels slightly behind?
I think if you're starting later, then probably taking half your age is going to really scare you anyway. But the reality is you probably need to do a little bit more. You need to get a bit more realistic about how you're going to invest it. Obviously, you're not going to do off the scale unregulated investments, but maybe you need to take a bit more calculated risk with some of the money that's your long-term money to try and close that gap.
I remember in our last conversation when you talked about pensions, you said, be brave, and you like always throw as much money in and then just think, oh my God, how am I going to survive? Yeah. But you kind of find a way. And I think when people saying that I couldn't possibly find 10%, but if you took it away, you always find a way to live, don't you?
Exactly. And you try and cut back. Like my mortgage went up at the end of last year, and by amount that was actually making me really nervous last summer. And I was like, right, I've got to do it. So what am I going to change? And it was just like, if I cut back on these teeny things, so I used to spend 200 a week last year on food. Now it went down to 160 a week, and just changed teeny things like my fund budget went down a bit. Or like my family meal out to posh restaurants become a mid family.
I was saying, these are real first world problems.
I know, I sound a bit of a goon, but
you're at Toby Carvery now.
I love a Toby.
Yeah, Carvery, I love a Toby.
So just teeny changes that don't really impact my fun have taken away those nerves that I felt in summer last year. And I think life can catch up with you in some ways as well. Like when I think back to what I used to spend when I earned £30,000 a year to the things that I've just accumulated in my life as a new normal way of spending, it's gone a bit bonkers if I was really honest with myself. There's so many things I could cut back on that wouldn't change how happy I am.
Yeah, I'm the same. And because I run a business and certain things are business expenses, you end up spending money that you wouldn't spend because you're like, I get the VAT back. And it's like, that doesn't justify spending 150 quid on a meal. Do you know what I mean? So you can save 30 quid in VAT or whatever. So I want to come in a minute. We're going to come back to like looking at this specific year and some of the milestones. But first, I just want to keep going with this point around where people should be, because I know a lot of people listening everyone will feel they're behind in life. Everyone I speak to, they could be 18 or 80, says, I wish I'd started sooner.
So I think really it's about looking at your goals and thinking of this rolling 5-year time frame. Like if you're really focused on the next 5 years and making those financial goals happen, and also you're being sensible about those long-term goals, I think if you're controlling those two things, you're halfway to success anyway. So if you think over the next 5 years, so put yourself now, 2029, what's going to be different about my life? And then work backwards. How many paychecks? Because this is quite scary. How many paychecks until January 2029? 12 times 5, 60. That's really scary. Yeah. So you've got 60 opportunities to achieve those 5-year goals. So I think really break it down to keeping this 5-year rolling goal working for you.
I don't look at, I need to do that, because I want this amount of money by the time I'm 50, and then I want this amount of money by the end of the year.
I think maybe the reason we don't is because that can freak us out, because it is that 60 paycheck mentality. Like, oh my God, let's just see how we get on. But if you can use it as a carrot rather than a stick, I think it can really help the mindset. And maybe that's a way of quantifying that you'll underestimate what you can achieve in a year thing by looking at over the last 5 years, how far have I come? If I did the same again, where would I be? And maybe that will help to give you, to help open your mind about what you could achieve in the next 5 years.
This is from childprice.com. They say by 30, you should have half of your salary saved. By 35, they should have 1 to 1.5. That's quite a big jump in 5 years, that seems.
And if you think your earnings are going up,
Does that
usually.
mean half of your annual salary saved?
So by the time you turn 30, they think you should have half of your salary then saved in retirement savings.
So that doesn't feel unachievable by 30.
That's not too bad. So if you're on like 40 grand a year, you should have 20,000 saved for your pension.
Yeah. So, and then by 30, it's in dollars, but it says by 35, you should have, say if you earn $60,000, you'd have 60 to 90K in retirement savings. And then at 40, 1.5 to 2.5, by 50, 3 to 6 times. By 60, 5.5 to 11 times. Wow. Would you say that 5.5 is enough by 60? No. I wouldn't.
Depends what kind of life you want. The rule is whatever your big number goal is whatever you want per year times it by 25.
Yeah, so
they're assuming a real drop in standard of living.
At 65, they're saying at the top end you would have 13.5 times your salary saved, which isn't.
So they're thinking half your income is what you need.
Yeah.
As a maximum, and I think that's just not true. Like. I mean, I remember when my granddad died. It's not a sad story. When my granddad died, he was like only in his 70s, and people were like, "Oh, he lived a good life." We're actually my 60s and 70s. I better still be having fun and enjoying my life and going out and feeling like I'm 40.
Yeah.
So I need money to do that. I don't want to sit around reading the paper.
Yeah.
So I could do that in the morning. My lions.
This idea, like you say, with my mum at the minute, so she's retired. She retired early at 55. And it's like trying to convince her to like blow your money now because when you're 80, you probably won't be able to.
No, and I think, well, I always think it's almost like a double dip roller coaster. So early retirement, you want to go for it, don't you? You're young, you're healthy, hopefully. You've still got that get up and go, and you want to go and see all the things that you've promised yourself you'll do. Then in mid-retirement, usually people start to cut back a bit. Your world shrinks a little bit. And then sadly, in the latter part of your life is when you spend the big money on all your care home fees. And so, yeah, you need to plan for having that fun while you can.
If you want more information on how to sort your financial life out, then just click here to watch the full interview with Lisa Conway Hughes.